It was supposed to be a simple overnight ride. London to Edinburgh. First class, quiet car. I had just finished a 16-hour shift and was desperate to sleep. My head buzzed with exhaustion, and the promise of a peaceful train ride through the night was the only thing keeping me upright. But when I boarded, I noticed something strange right away. My ticket said carriage 9, but the train only had 8. I double-checked the ticket on my phone. Carriage 9, seat 3A. Everything looked normal. I asked the conductor, a wiry man with a droopy mustache. He stared blankly, then said, "You're mistaken. There is no carriage 9. I held the phone up to him. He squinted, frowned, then laughed nervously. "Strange. Must be a glitch. You can sit anywhere." But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. So I walked to the end of the last visible car and found a narrow, black door where no door should be. It was matte black, almost absorbing the light from the corridor. No handle, just there. Without thinking, I stepped through. Inside was dim, flickering with a dying orange light. Rows of seats, yes, but all empty. Silent, smelling like rotting wood and dust. The air felt heavy, like stepping into a sealed attic no one's entered in decades. I sat anyway, third row from the front. Then, the lights cut out. Total black. I fumbled for my phone. Dead, dead. And that's when I heard breathing. Not mine. Heavy, slow, behind me. I turned. Nothing. But the seat across the aisle was now occupied. A woman, pale, hair soaked, like she had just climbed out of a lake. She stared, not blinking. Then she whispered, "Don't ride past midnight." The train lurched. My eyes snapped shut. When I opened them, I was in carriage 4. My bag was in my lap. My phone had 62% battery. I looked around, breath shallow. Passengers surrounded me. None of them had noticed a thing. I rushed to the conductor, heart pounding. "That car at the back, it wasn't supposed to be there. There was a woman. She said something about midnight." The conductor stared at me, then slowly said, "You should get some rest." "No, listen. There was a door, a black one." He walked away, but that wasn't the end. Later that night, I went looking again. No black door, just a steel wall, solid, seamless. Except, when I touched it, it felt warm, like something breathing behind it. I returned to my seat. The train hummed forward, but sleep didn't come. At 12:01 a.m., my phone buzzed. One notification. "You didn't listen." No app, no sender, just text. I turned off my phone. Seconds later, the lights dimmed again, but only in my car. And for a moment, I smelled that same rotting wood, that same heavy air. Then came the whisper, right by my ear. "Third row." I bolted upright. A cold sweat soaked my shirt. Passengers stirred. No one else heard it. I grabbed my things and moved to the dining car, sat under the brightest light I could find. Didn't blink until sunrise. When we reached Edinburgh, I ran straight to the nearest coffee shop. Phone still off. I checked my digital ticket again. Still said carriage 9. Only this time, the seat number had changed. It now read, reserved. No seat number, just that word. And underneath, in tiny gray font, "You boarded once, you will again." I tried deleting the ticket. It wouldn't disappear. To this day, it stays in my files. I've changed phones, erased my cloud. It always comes back. Sometimes, when I'm near a train station, my phone buzzes at midnight. No number, no caller ID, just a whisper through the speaker. ready for your return trip. Do you ever get that feeling that someone's watching you? It's irrational. You know it is. But it creeps in anyway, usually when it's dark, when it's late, when your mind is just tired enough to believe anything. I was alone in a 4-seater cabin, window seat, midnight train through the Austrian Alps. The air outside was thick with fog, the kind that clings to the windows like breath. It was supposed to be scenic, peaceful, but I kept catching glimpses of something in the glass reflection. Not outside, inside. A man in a black coat, his eyes wrong, like static, like someone trying to remember how to look human. Whenever I turned to look, no one was there. At first, I told myself it was a trick of the light, sleep deprivation, refraction, but I couldn't shake it. I checked the hallway, empty, even walked a few cars down, just metal clanks beneath my boots, doors whooshing open and shut, the rhythmic sway of the train. But every time I returned, there he was, motionless in the reflection, slightly closer. Eventually, I turned to face the empty seat across from me and I said, out loud, "I know you're there." The lights flickered. Then the door slammed shut. The cabin temperature dropped. My breath turned white. And on the fogged window beside me, a finger traced one word from the inside. Stay. I leapt from my seat and tore open the door. The hallway lights buzzed overhead, dimmer now, quieter. I looked back. My reflection still sat there, looking calm. But I wasn't in it anymore. It was just him, smiling. I ran to the next car, found an older woman reading a book. I must have looked crazy, sweating, pale, shaking. "There's someone in my car," I said. She glanced up. "Car 6? I nodded. Her expression changed. Flat, resigned. "That car's been closed since 1987. She went back to her book. I returned, slowly. No footprints, no cold breath, no word on the window. Only the smell of burnt ozone. The reflection was gone, but not for long. That night, I tried to sleep in the dining car, curled up in a booth. Around 2:14 a.m., I opened my eyes. My water glass was full, which it hadn't been. Condensation dripped down the sides. A note sat underneath, folded, old paper, yellowed at the edges. One sentence, "We never left." I looked around, empty car, but the glass had a fingerprint, the same fingerprint I saw on the fogged window. When we arrived in Vienna, I asked the station agent about the train's maintenance log. He looked annoyed, but humored me. Car 6 was sealed off after a fire in '87. Malfunctioning heater caused a smoke buildup. Guy locked inside, couldn't get out. What happened to him? He looked at me carefully. He stayed. Now, every time I board a train, I avoid the window seats. I ride backwards, against the reflections. Because sometimes, just sometimes, I see him again. Not outside, not in the car, but watching me. Through the glass. And he's still getting closer. It was just after 2 a.m. The train was between towns, deep in the woods when I saw her. A little girl, maybe 8 years old, standing in the aisle. She didn't speak, just stared. She was barefoot. Her pajamas were old-fashioned, like something out of the 1950s. And her hair was soaked, clinging to her face and neck like she had just stepped out of a storm. But it wasn't raining. I asked where her parents were. She pointed toward car 3. I hesitated. Something felt wrong. Every instinct screamed at me to sit back down. But she looked so alone. I took her hand. It was ice cold. Not like a child's hand should feel. More like touching Riverstone in winter. We started walking. I glanced behind us. The other passengers didn't react. Not even a glance. Car 2's door creaked open. We stepped through. Car 3 was empty. Not a soul in sight. Every seat abandoned. Trash scattered, like everyone had left in a hurry. "Where are they?" I asked. She said nothing, just kept walking. But every time we passed through a door, we ended up in the same car, over and over and over. Car 3, Car 3, Car 3. The graffiti on the seats shifted subtly. The pattern of discarded papers changed. Sometimes there were stains on the ceiling. Once, the lights overhead flickered, and I swear, for half a second, all the windows went pitch black, like there was nothing outside anymore. Her grip tightened, cold as ice. She finally spoke. Her voice was brittle, like leaves crunching under snow. "They took me in this car. They never let me leave." I stopped walking. I looked back at her. She was no longer holding my hand. Her face had changed. Paler, eyes too wide, mouth slightly open. But worst of all, her shadow was wrong. It didn't fall where it should. It leaned toward me. I turned around and ran. The door slammed behind me. The window on it shattered inward, not from force, but like it had buckled under pressure from the inside. I stumbled into car 2, gasping. Passengers looked up, frowned. One woman asked, "Are you okay?" I nodded. But when I turned back, the door to car 3 was gone. Just a smooth metal wall. I collapsed into a seat, trying to breathe, trying to convince myself none of it happened. But then, I checked my phone. New photos. In my gallery. Dozens. Every one blurry. Except one. A selfie. Of me. Sleeping. In car 3. And behind me, the girl. Smiling. I deleted it, but it came back. I factory reset my phone. Bought a new one. Still there. Sometimes, at 2:07 a.m., exactly the moment I first saw her, I'll get a notification. Welcome back. The first time I told someone, they laughed. The second time, they blocked my number. But I met one man, at a bar near the station, who didn't laugh. He listened, nodded, then said, "I know. I saw her too." He rolled up his sleeve. There was a handprint, small, bruised into the skin. "Never sat in car 3 again," he said. "You shouldn't either." I've changed my routes. Avoid trains, fly, drive, anything but rail. But last week, my girlfriend booked us a sleeper. She texted me the ticket. My seat? Car 3. It was the last train out of Prague. Just me and a snoring businessman. Quiet, peaceful. I had booked a late-night departure on purpose. I love trains at night. Something about the rhythmic hum of the tracks, the soft glow of overhead lights, the way the world outside seems to disappear. It's like the train becomes its own world. Until I heard whispering. At first it was so faint I thought it was part of a dream. My eyes were closed, cheek pressed to the window. "You shouldn't be here," from above me. The luggage rack. I opened my eyes, looked up. Nothing there. But my duffel bag. I sat up, rubbed my face. The businessman across the aisle kept snoring, head tilted too far back. whispering again. "It's watching." I stood up this time, checked the rack. My bag hadn't moved. Still, I pulled it down, just to be safe. That's when I noticed a dark spot, right where the bag had been sitting. It looked like burn marks, circular, perfectly round, like something had sat there, hot. The whispering stopped. I sat, whispering again. Only now, it was louder, clearer. "Stay seated. Stay still." I glanced at the businessman. His snoring had stopped, his eyes wide open now, but his face was frozen, mouth open, expression locked in terror. Then he screamed, loud, like someone was ripping his skin off. He jumped up, pointed at the empty luggage space above me. "It has no eyes!" He ran, disappeared into the next car, just like that. I sat frozen, my bag clutched in my lap. The car fell into a silence, so heavy it felt like it had mass. Then the whispering changed. It wasn't words anymore, just a low hum, like a voice trying to remember how to speak. I turned to the window. Instead of my reflection, I saw something else. A face pressed against the glass, mouth stitched shut. Sockets where eyes should be, just hollow, pulsing, dark. I blinked. Gone. The lights in the car buzzed and dimmed. I turned on the flashlight on my phone. The beam barely cut through the thick, oily darkness that had crept into the corners. Then came the smell, like copper, blood, and metal. I stood to leave. The door wouldn't open, stuck. Then the overhead speaker crackled to life, but it wasn't the conductor. It was whispering on the intercom. My name. Over and over. "Stay seated," my name. "Stay still." My skin crawled. I pounded on the door. Then suddenly, light. Everything snapped back to normal. The door slid open. The lights glowed warm. The businessman? Gone. A steward entered. "Everything all right in here?" I nodded, too stunned to speak. He looked up at the rack, then at me. "You moved your bag?" he asked. I nodded. "You did the right thing," he said quietly. "It doesn't like being noticed." And then, he left. I didn't sleep the rest of the ride. The whispering didn't stop. It still happens sometimes, in quiet places, like something followed me. In hotel rooms, I'll hear it in vents. In elevators, when I'm alone. A single word. Closer. I once got a text, from an unknown number. One word. Above. I looked up, and for a second, I swear, I saw fingers pulling back the ceiling tile. I moved out of that apartment. The next day. I don't take trains anymore. But last week, a delivery arrived at my door. No sender, no label, just a box. Inside was my old duffel bag, and underneath it, a scorched, circular patch of wood. This train was supposed to stop. I had taken it a dozen times before. Same route, same departure time, always punctual, always predictable. That night, I boarded at 10:03 p.m., just like the ticket said. I had my usual aisle seat near the door, bag tucked under my legs, headphones in. I watched the landmarks outside grow smaller as we pulled away from the city. But it didn't take long to notice something strange. I was watching the signs. My stop, Dalebridge, came and went. I blinked, checked my phone. 9 minutes past the scheduled stop. No announcement, no slowdown, no explanation. I pulled the emergency chain. Nothing happened. I flagged a conductor. He blinked slowly, like I had just woken him from a dream. "Dalebridge?" I asked. "Why didn't we stop?" He looked puzzled. "This train doesn't stop at Dalebridge. Never has." I laughed, showed him my ticket. The line clearly marked, "Arrival, Dalebridge Station, 11:17 p.m. He squinted at it, lips moving silently as he read. Then he said, "You must be confused. You're thinking of a different train." He walked away. I tried to get off at the next stop, but there was no platform, just trees, forest, darkness, like the train had drifted off the map. I pressed my face to the glass. The trees didn't look real. They looked painted, too still, like a stage set. The windows wouldn't open. The doors wouldn't budge. Every passenger expressionless. I realized then I had never seen them bored. They'd always been there, like statues. I waved at one. Nothing. Then one turned his head slowly, as if it cost him effort, and smiled. Too wide. I moved to another car. Same thing. Rows of passengers, seated perfectly, unmoving. Except one woman in the back row, hunched over, whispering to herself. I knelt beside her. "Do you know what's going on?" She looked at me, red-rimmed eyes. "You boarded the wrong way," she whispered. "You can't get off until it ends." "Until what ends?" She didn't answer. Her head slumped forward, and she went still. I backed away, hands shaking. I tried calling someone. No signal. I opened my email app just in case. One unread message. No sender. No subject. Just one sentence. "You should have stayed asleep." I moved toward the front car. Maybe the engineer could help. But the doors grew harder to open. The lights flickered more violently, and the temperature dropped. Then I reached a door that wasn't a door, just a wall of red velvet. And behind it, I heard something breathing, big, wet. I turned back. The train had changed. Seats were torn. Windows now showed static, not trees. And then I noticed my watch had stopped at 11:17 p.m. Dalebridge. I ran back to my original seat. My bag was still there, but on the floor beside it was a child's shoe, small, caked with mud. I don't know why, but I picked it up, and a voice came through the intercom. "Ticket confirmed. You may proceed." The lights turned red. The car shook. And the passengers, all of them, turned to look at me, in perfect unison. I blacked out. When I came to, the train was at Dalebridge, early morning, mist on the platform. But the train behind me was gone. No schedule, no crew, no trace, just a black shoe still in my coat pocket. And sometimes when I walk by a station, I hear the rails hum and the faint sound of velvet breathing. I needed to wash my face, shake off the sleep. The train washroom was small, lit with an ugly yellow light. I splashed cold water, looked up into the mirror, and saw someone standing behind me. I spun around. Nothing. I turned back, and in the mirror, the figure was closer. At first, I thought it was just sleep deprivation. I hadn't rested in nearly 2 days. But then I realized the mirror wasn't reflecting the washroom at all anymore. Instead, I was looking into another room. A washroom, yes, but older, dirty tiles, rusted faucet, and a handprint smeared in something dark on the mirror's edge. I stepped back. The image stayed. The light above me flickered, then burst with a pop. The mirror image brightened, and the figure returned. A man this time. Gaunt, lips torn, cheeks hollow. Eyes wrong, reflecting no light, just holes. He stood behind me, in the reflection, but the room was still empty. I whispered, "Who are you?" The reflection opened its mouth. Something black spilled out, not words, just shadows. I lunged for the door. Locked. I pounded, screaming. The reflection kept getting closer, like it was leaning forward inside the mirror. Then came the knocking, from inside the glass, faint, hollow, like knuckles against cold stone. When the door finally opened, I stumbled out into the corridor. A steward stared at me. "Washroom's been out of order for years. he said flatly. I turned back. The door I'd come out of wasn't there anymore. Just a blank wall with flaking paint. I asked other passengers if they'd seen it. No one had. But later, I found something on my phone. A photo. I don't remember taking it. It was the mirror, and me, standing in front of it. But the figure behind me wasn't blurred, wasn't faded. It was smiling, and its hand was on my shoulder. I boarded late, caught the final train from a rural station. It was one of those forgotten towns, a single platform, dim lights, and a vending machine that still sold expired chocolate. The announcer called the destination, but it wasn't any town I recognized. I Googled it. No results. Then I asked the woman beside me. "We're going back," she said. "They don't like it when we ask." "Back where?" She didn't answer. She just smiled, with too many teeth. I thought she was joking, some rural superstition or a weird night train prank. But as we left the station, the windows darkened faster than usual. No scenery, just black. No cell signal either. And the Wi-Fi? Said it was connected, but nothing loaded. Just a page that read, "Connection reserved." The lights flickered every few minutes. The longer we rode, the more the passengers seemed off. Some were murmuring quietly, others stared straight ahead, hands clenched in their laps. I tried walking to the conductor's car. The train kept stretching, like I wasn't making any progress. Same cars, same faces, same toothy smile from the woman. "You're circling," she said, when I passed her again. My breath caught in my throat. Then came the announcement. Final stop, nowhere. But there was no voice behind it, just static shaped into syllables. I tried to get off when we paused, but the door wouldn't open. The platform outside, endless, empty, and pitch black, like someone had painted night on a backdrop and nailed it to the world. I turned to the man beside me. "Why can't we leave?" He answered, without turning his head. "Because you boarded." I moved toward the emergency brake, pulled it hard. Nothing, not even resistance. The announcer's voice returned. "Attempted exit recorded. Consequence pending." The lights turned red. The train sped up. Too fast. I was thrown against the seat. Then, it stopped. Silence. The passengers filed out, one by one, into the black. I hesitated. But then, I saw my name on the screen above the door. Passenger 47, compliant, release authorized. I stepped out. I was back at the same platform where I'd boarded. Same vending machine, same broken sign. But everything was older, rotting, like the station had been abandoned for years. I ran to the nearby road. My phone buzzed once. A message. "Thank you for traveling. Return scheduled." Underneath, a new line appeared. One way. Final ride. Pending. "Ticket, please." He was tall, hat low over his eyes. The silver braid on his uniform looked too pristine, like it had never been touched by time or weather. I had just boarded a midnight express running through the Scottish Highlands. I was the only one in my car. I handed him my pass, but he didn't even look at it. He just looked at me and said, "You shouldn't have boarded, not tonight." I laughed nervously. "Why not?" He didn't smile. "Because you died on this track 5 years ago." I blinked. "What?" He reached into his coat, pulled out a newspaper. Brittle, yellowed. My face, on the front. Headline, "Young man killed in train collision." The details were specific. My age, my town, even the backpack I was wearing. The same one I had with me. I dropped the ticket. This is a mistake." The conductor nodded, almost gently. "Next stop," he said, tipping his hat, "is goodbye." Then he walked away, through a door that hadn't been there before. I followed, but the corridor beyond was wrong. The walls pulsed, breathed. The floor was soft under my shoes, like skin. Voices whispered from the corners. Some called my name. Others repeated words I hadn't heard in years. "Don't run from it. Do you remember the tunnel? Time's up." The lights overhead dimmed, until I could barely see, but at the end of the corridor, an old wooden door, heavy, cracked down the middle. I opened it. Inside was a room with no walls, just train tracks stretching into infinity. And figures, hundreds, all watching, each one wearing a conductor's hat, each one holding a paper. I stepped closer. They were all me, versions of me, older, younger, injured, some burned, some frozen, some in clothes I'd never worn. They whispered in unison, "Which version do you want to be?" I turned. The original conductor stood behind me. He held out a silver ticket, blank. "You choose where it ends," he said. I took it. The moment I touched the paper, the room dissolved. I was back in my seat. Alone. The train pulled into a small station I didn't recognize. The platform sign was blank. But on the back of my hand, written in marker, were 5 words. "You're not done. Not yet." And inside my jacket pocket, the silver ticket. Still blank. Still warm. Tick, tick, tick. I kept hearing it. Soft, mechanical. It started not long after the train left Budapest. I was in seat 12C, second class, a nearly empty car. My laptop was open, headphones in, but I could still hear it beneath the music. Tick, tick, tick. I assumed it was something in the wheels, or maybe a loose fixture above me, but it didn't stop. It only got louder, more deliberate, like it wanted me to notice. Seat 12C was empty beside me, but the ticking came from beneath it. I bent down, carefully lifted the flap below the seat. My fingers brushed something cold. I pulled out a music box. Victorian, wooden. The kind you'd find in an antique shop run by someone who's been dead a while. It had ornate carvings, a brass handle. I turned the crank. It played a lullaby. Soft at first, but then the notes slowed down, stretching into something wrong. Then the car lights went off. Pitch black. I froze. The music box kept playing. Then a girl began singing along, a child's voice, sweet, fragile, from somewhere in the darkness. I turned on my phone light. Nothing. But when I looked down, the music box was gone, and seat 12C was wet, like someone had poured a bucket of river water into it. I stood up. My shoes squelched on the carpet. And then I noticed the trail, small, bare footprints leading down the aisle toward the back of the train. I followed. Every other car was normal, lights on, people chatting softly, but no one looked at me, not once. Then the prints stopped at a restroom door. I hesitated, then knocked. The music played from inside. I opened the door slowly. Empty. But the mirror was fogged, and written in it backwards, "Play it again." I stepped in. The door shut behind me. Locked. The music started once more. Tick, tick, tick. I turned to the mirror. My reflection wasn't mine. It was a child, a girl, wearing my clothes, crying. Behind her, a shadow loomed. Thin arms, a stretched neck. I screamed. The lights came back on. I was in my seat again, seat 12C. A woman beside me was watching, frowning. "You all right?" I nodded. But when I looked down, the music box was on my lap. Soaked. I threw it out the window the next time we stopped. It shattered on the tracks. But when I got home, I unpacked my bag and found it inside. Dry, wound tight. The crank turned once on its own. Tick, tick. I bought it from a strange machine at a forgotten station. I was backpacking through Eastern Europe, hopping night trains to save money on hostels. That night I ended up in a village not listed on any map. No taxis, no buses, just a rusted train platform and one flickering ticket kiosk. The screen didn't show destinations, just one option, one way, night only. It was cheap, too cheap. I pressed buy. The machine coughed out a thin silver slip. When the train arrived, it was silent. No engine sound, no conductor. Just doors sliding open with a hiss, like steam escaping a tomb. But I boarded anyway. Inside, everything looked old. Red velvet seats, polished brass lights, carpets that whispered underfoot. As soon as a door shut, I felt it. A drop in pressure, like descending fast in an elevator. Then, the lights dimmed. Red, the train moved. Not with the rhythmic clack of tracks, but a gliding motion, smooth, wrong. I looked out the window, nothing but black. No landscape, no stars, no reflection. And a voice whispered through the speakers, "Next stop, the place where no one wakes up." I tried to find the conductor. Each door I opened led to the same car, over and over. I passed my own seat again and again. Once, I opened a door and found myself asleep. I blinked. The other me vanished. The ticket in my pocket burned hot. I pulled it out. It now had an arrival time, 3:13 a.m. And underneath, fare paid, no returns. I tore the ticket in half. The train screamed, not braked, screamed. The lights exploded. A wind tore through the car. The voice returned. Violation recorded. Fare must be paid. And all the other passengers turned. Their faces, paper. Blank tickets folded into people shapes. Crumpled, torn, ink running from their eyes. They pointed at me. "Return the debt." I screamed. I don't remember anything after that. I woke up in my bed, thousands of kilometers away, train clothes still on, shoes caked with ash. But my phone had a new photo in the gallery, an image of the inside of the train. Seat 17A, empty, waiting, and my torn ticket, taped back together, was on my desk. Underneath it, one handwritten word: tonight.